Okay, there we go.
Launched.
Launched.
Good evening. You're listening live to
Good evening. You're
Extreme
listening
TV
live
Show.
to
I'm Rob,
Xtreme
your
TV
host.
Show. I'm
My
Rob, your
guest with me this
host.
evening,
My
covering
guest with me
episodes
this
3
evening,
and 4
covering
of The Witcher on
episodes 3 and
Netflix,
4 of The Witcher
is
on
Dalton the
Netflix,
Authenticator.
is
Good
Dalton
evening,
the
sir.
Authenticator. Good evening, sir.
Good evening and good evening, everybody. How
Yeah,
was your holiday?
it was
It was
pretty damn good.
pretty damn good.
Ditto.
I know yours was too.
I know yours was too.
A lot of good eats.
A
A
lot of good
lot of what we
eats.
talked about on
A
our
lot of
other
what we
stream,
talked about
talking
on
about
our other
food, got
stream,
me
talking
inspired.
about
It was
food, got me inspired. It was
a well-fed evening.
a well-fed evening.
Yes, it definitely was, and it was a remarkably bountiful evening in a lot of other ways as well. But that's neither here nor there. We are here to talk about Witcher. So, Witcher.
Well-fed and bountiful
Well-fed and
explains a few of
bountiful
the scenes we're going
explains
to
a
talk
few of the
about. So
scenes we're going
tonight
to
we're going to
talk
cover
about. So
episodes
tonight we're
3
going
and
to
4 of The
cover
Witcher.
episodes 3 and 4 of The Witcher.
We're going to cover
We're going
3
to
first
cover
and jump into
3
4.
first and
And
jump into
so I'll go
4.
ahead and
And
start
so I'll go ahead and
and
start
just mention a couple things and we'll see
and
what you
just mention
thought.
a
Because
couple
we
of
haven't
things and
talked
we'll see
about
what
this
we've
is
talked about. This
a
is
raw
a
live
raw
review.
live review.
The A
The
storyline
A
is
storyline is
Geralt with
Geralt with
werewolf type creature on the
werewolf type
Strigia.
creature on the Strigia.
And so
That they,
Correct.
the creature that they say it is warped, um, a warped female sort of witch-like creature from Russian folklore called the Striga, who, according to the lore that Witcher's based on, is a creature that is born out of still fetuses or miscarriages.
basically an abortion.
Basically an abortion.
Yep.
I thought that's pretty dark.
I thought that's pretty dark.
I was impressed that they referenced that because I'm aware that Witcher is based on Eastern European folklore, but I didn't think they were actually going to pull any specific creatures out. So it was nice to see this Stiga.
Well, let's just explore that
Well, let's
storyline
just
before we go on to
explore the
Yennefer's
storyline
and
before we
Ciri's.
go on to Yennefer's and
See, in
Ciri's.
this scene,
See, in
the
this scene,
storyline, you get a chance to see him
storyline,
have a
you get
fight
a
at the
chance
end.
to
You get to
see
see
him have
him
a fight at
battle
the end. You
when
get to
use
see
some
him
different
battle
powers.
when
And
use different
I got
powers.
the
And
impression that just with some of his
I got the
decision making, because
impression
he
that
had
just
a
with some of
slow
this,
play it until
he had a slow play
the sun
until
rised,
the sun
that he
rised.
isn't the
That
smartest guy in
he
the world, but he's
isn't
not
the
dumb.
smartest guy in the world, but
But
he's
he
not
seems to
dumb.
go into
But
stuff with
he
just an
seems
idea
to
of what he
go into
wants to
stuff
do,
with just an
not
idea of
necessarily a
what he wants to
plan.
do,
And
with not necessarily a
I don't
plan.
know if
And
that was just the way I
I don't
took
know if
it,
that
but
was
what do
just
you
the way
think
I
about his
took it,
decision
but what do
making
you
as he
think
gets
about his
himself in
decision
these
making
fights?
as he gets himself in these fights?
Um, it was interesting. I liked him kind of holding the royals kind of accountable for their stupid decisions. And I kind of felt for him because it seemed in a lot of cases like he was the one he was the one thinking person in the room while everybody else was busy with the decorum of court and everything. And I remember one scene where a guy literally had to go, I think we can dispense with the decorum for a little bit under the circumstances. And then he tells everyone to get out, and Geralt locks the door and basically interrogates the king for the stupid thing he was doing.
Well, actually, what I liked
Well,
about that
actually,
was
what I
when you
liked
mentioned
about
earlier
that
about
was when you mentioned earlier about
this creature,
this
you know,
creature
from Russian
you know, from
folklore,
Russian folklore,
basically a creature of abortion. Who knows exactly morality-wise what you could say about that? I'm trying to stay away from that. But what I liked about it was not just the fact that they mention it, that you credit them with, but the fact here when he closed the door and he was speaking to the guy and he was basically calling him out on it and explaining it. So not only did you hear what the creature was, you got the moral implication he does.
before he does.
Mm-hmm. I thought the actual battle itself was mostly just forgettable, though. I guess it's just my propensity for enjoying the stuff behind the action scenes more than the action scenes, but I ended up just kind of like get back to the other thing that's going on, which we'll get to when we cover Yennefer's thing there. Because
Yeah,
I was
because
much more interested in what
we'll
she was
reference what you
doing
just
during
said
that.
here in episode 4 in a little while. But yeah, that's just it's kind of forgettable to me. It's okay. The battles, whatever. But the Yennefer storyline to me was by far the most engaging of this episode too. So I felt that this would be a bit more attractive for you as far as what you're interested in. So why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay, so apparently in this continuity, uh, there is a rite of passage that the sorceresses undergo when they sort of graduate and join the Sorcerers Guild, which involves them being able to enchant themselves in any number of ways. And of course, Yen, with her hunchback past, wants to engage in not only power but also beauty. So it becomes a whole thing, and we actually pick back up with the boyfriend from the previous episode, and it turns out that, much to their credit, I think, not it wasn't just manipulation, it was also that they actually did want a relationship. It was just also that element of sort of politicking. I felt bad for her suitor there because it seemed like he was the more sympathetic of the two when it came down to the time of choices being made. Because see, he seemed, despite the fact that he was doing a much more manipulative thing, like he was more genuine, at least in that moment.
It may have come across that way. To me, I felt that since they were both playing each other, even though they were having sexual relations, that whatever was going to happen to the outcome, they both deserved it because of the way they were treating each other, which is not genuine. And I wonder with the way that they introduced this mythology of a monster from abortion, also the price in a moment we'll talk about with what Yennefer is willing to pay for a price for something. The fact that here that this guy, her boyfriend, lover, we're going to call it Istrid, is basically like, well, why don't you just follow me around and, that's it. And so I'm wondering, you could make the argument that this is not necessarily an anti-male episode or more along the lines of they could be planting seeds for, female empowerment by debuting all these things at once. And I'm not saying that's bad, but I found this to be a very intense episode when it came to the female perspective, which is good because ultimately we find out Yennefer is like, hey, screw that, I'm self-sufficient. And I always liked that as a story. Istra just seems still more like a boy, not a man, whereas you can get a sense of her growth. And boy, does she grow in this episode.
Phrasing.
Well, yeah, but go ahead with the Yennefer and what happens and everything too.
Okay, so she ends up missing out on the graduation ceremony, and so she decides to, well, fuck it, I'm gonna do it myself, basically. And she gets the guy who's in charge of the enchantments, which is a character I actually really like. I kind of hope we see him again because he seems interesting at least. Um, and he basically offers to anesthetize her with some herbal concoction that he has, and she's like, "No, it'll be more effective if I actually am able to feel it." Which part of me wonders if, because of the nature of the literal prices that are paid for this kind of magic, if her pain and her suffering to get this beauty doesn't doesn't go a long way to explain why post enchantment she is so much more beautiful than the women who uh, you know supposedly have already had this done to them. Like, if all of the women who are sorceresses get this enchantment done, then why isn't every person who's had this enchantment done more beautiful than her, given that she was the ugliest of them before? But I guess if you look at it that way, if you look at it, the suffering that she went through by being unanesthetized, bolstered it, then that makes perfect sense why she is more beautiful than they are. Because she actually went out of her way to do it, whereas they were just doing it out of some, sense of ritual, I guess.
Well, I think the one thing I liked about her transformation was not only was it very graphic in a lot of ways, but it reminded me of a scene where her and her lover were having relations, and they just, of course, show her on top and she's in control riding the guy, but they do it in such a way where, okay, yeah, they're having sex, whoop-de-doo, but they do it where you see her from the side and you actually see her deformity as she's going through it, and just two people going at it, and you're like, oh, that's not that bad, but I think that image is fresh in your mind when they go through everything here because of how she changes and then ends up getting all va va boom, for the end of the episode.
The body horror aspect was something I liked too, because there are a lot of ways you could have shied away from that, but they didn't. They literally showed her like being bent out of shape and then being forcibly bent back into shape, kind of.
And it wasn't overly sexualized too. It's just watching her body, even though she's transforming into what's going to be a super hot woman, or we believe. You're just watching her, like you said, contort, contract. And I thought too, she wasn't moaning like a little bitchy character. She sold it well with the pain, and of course they clipped that with the other one.
Yeah, she gritted her teeth and bared it because she knew this is what she wanted. And of course the price of what she wanted, I think is probably going to come back to bite her here in a few episodes.
I don't know, but what I do know is the fact that they're emphasizing, okay, she's made a choice now to be an adult, and let's move forward and see how that defines you as a character. So I actually like this episode from that perspective. With Geralt's storyline, the A storyline, it was just sort of there to me, which I don't mind. He does not have to be the number one character in all these episodes or timelines. I certainly don't mind when they go to other ones as long as we care about them. But I was like, oh, no Bard, what's going on? I'm gonna have to pay attention to the dialogue because obviously these timelines, I'm gonna say it right now as we get ready for 4. I hate all these multiple timelines before, forward, and I don't like them. It bothers my viewing pleasure, and that's just me. I hope I'm not the only one.
You want a consistent timeline? Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It doesn't really add anything, and it's just a meaningless distraction a lot of the time.
Well, because the sea
Like,
sword
where does this
storyline,
fit
it's not
where
much
and what?
Siri hearing some whispers as she's walking along, whispers from this forest as she's walking along this big open area with a lot of, well, it's a good scene, a lot of area that's got a lot of bodies into it, and she's with her Zadar, the elf guy, and an arrow falls him, and he doesn't die, but she's looks like she's entranced, and that's it. So it's like you have to have 20 minutes for all three things and even it out, but this just felt like a throwaway.
hmm I I continue to not care at all about what Siri's going through. Like, it continues to bore me to tears. Like, cut it out for 5 minutes. Like, cut out those like 5 or 10 minutes and give it back to the plot that I actually care about. Because seeing Geralt investigate was interesting, and of course Yen doing her thing is always entertaining. So I'm like, why do I bother with Siri? Like, they could just as easily introduce Siri later, because knowing what I know about the games and the books, the whole reason they're setting up Siri is so that she can end up with Geralt and Yen. So couldn't they just save her until later and maybe do flashbacks of her backstory like then? That would make more sense, and it would spare me some time of having to roll my eyes and basically skip over whatever Siri's doing.
Okay, Underworld Dreams popped in. He says echoes. I'm wondering if he thinks he hears echoes.
It might be because of the way Discord reacts to my mic.
Huh. Well, we'll see. It is what it is. Right.
I can adjust it if it's too bad, Underworld Dream, but
I know I do hear echoes. So.
I know I do hear echoes. So.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it for
All right.
episode
Well, that's
3.
pretty much it for
There was
episode
some
3.
good stuff in it,
There was some
although I
good
do think it was
stuff in it.
somewhat
Although
forgettable
I
from
do
the
think it
Geralt and
was
Ciri
somewhat
angles. This is
forgettable
really
from
about
the Geralt and
Yennefer.
Ciri angles. This is
So
really
going to
about
episode
Yennefer.
4, I'll simply
So
start
going
off
to
by saying
episode
that
4,
it
I'll
was a
simply
bit more
start off by
enjoyable to
saying that
me,
it was a
the
bit more
Bard's
enjoyable to
back,
me, the
and for
Bard's
some reason I
back.
kind of pop when
And
he's
for some
on.
reason I kind of pop when he's on.
I don't always like comedy relief,
I
but if
don't
done
always
right,
like
it can
comedy
be
relief, but if done right, it can be
effective. But this one's all
effective.
about
But this
the
one's all
queen
about
in
the
the whatever
queen
timeline,
in the
whose
whatever
granddaughter will
timeline,
end up being Ciri.
whose
So
granddaughter
it's
will end
her
up being
daughter
Ciri. So it's
currently,
her daughter
Helainthe, I
currently,
think is her name,
Helainthe, I think is her
who's
name,
having all these suitors show
who's
up,
having all these suitors show up,
and they're supposed to say why
and
they
they're supposed to
take
say
her hand
why
in
they
marriage, and it's a
hand in
setup
marriage, and it's all
for
a
what's about
setup
to happen.
for what's
So
about to happen.
basically,
So
we get a little
basically, we get a
backstory
little
on
backstory on
Jeskyr the Bard,
Jeskyr the
who's basically
Bard,
been
who's
slaying
basically
women
been
left
slaying
and right
women
in the
left
bedroom, if
and
you know what
right
I'm
in the
saying.
bedroom, if you know what I'm
And so he's
saying.
like, hey, you gotta go
And so
with
he's
me
like,
to
hey, you
this,
gotta
and
go with me to
basically be my
this,
muscle.
and
And he's like, yeah,
basically be
okay.
my
And he
muscle. And he's
dresses him
like, yeah,
down.
okay.
And
And he dresses him down. And
what I liked here is that,
what I
again,
liked
what I
here is
mentioned with
that,
episode
again,
3
what I
is if
mentioned with
Geralt's not
episode 3
necessarily
is
the
if
main
Geralt's not
character,
necessarily the main
things can still
character,
happen and still be
things can
entertaining.
still happen and still be
And I
entertaining.
think your
Mhm.
budget got
And
shown a
I
lot
think
in
your
this
budget got
episode. So
shown a lot
let's
in
talk
this
about this
episode. So
particular
let's
angle
talk
here
about
before we
this
move on to the
particular
other one.
angle here before we move on to the other one.
Um, about the ball and that whole
Yes,
thing there.
the hedgehog head guy.
The hedgehog head guy.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, and I mentioned this to you before we came on, it is really starting to piss me off that they keep referring to Geralt as the White Wolf.
They do a lot in this
They
episode.
do a lot in this episode.
Geralt of Rivia is not the White Wolf. Elric of Melniboné is the White Wolf.
Yeah.
Knock it the fuck off.
Yeah.
Take that.
Take that.
Be a Michael Moorcock fan.
Be a Michael
Eternal
Moorcock
champion.
fan. Eternal champion.
Corum.
Well,
Hawkmoon.
and
Hawkmoon.
the thing that bugs me is it doesn't work for Geralt as a moniker, because the reason why Elric is called the White Wolf is because he is very skinny, very aged, very sort of broken because of his dark magic.
Puny.
Geralt,
Puny.
yeah, Geralt is built like a brick shithouse, so even if you wanted to go, the white something because of his white hair, the white bear or the white, like, the white beast would make more sense, but, and of course Elric is much more of a savage character, whereas Geralt is very unemotional, so the White Wolf doesn't work for him, and I wish they would stop using it.
Yeah, it's something that I think's not going to go away, so I think we're going to have to deal with it. But as far as this ballroom thing, after such a strong character building episode, I felt this one was a bit light, at least this particular one, so I don't have a problem with the pacing where it got put in. But basically what happens is this guy shows up out of nowhere. He's got this hedgehog head. He looks really goofy, and I'm almost laughing. It's done well, but it looks silly and stupid, which I don't know is what they were going for. But basically he's saying, hey, look, I'm the man. I claim it based off of whatever, because he had a helmet on, and then he took it off. And so there's something, a social construct that they have apparently called the law of surprise. Which, is David Smack, convenient, but whatever. And the princess is like, yeah, I'm marrying him. That's my man. Yeah, I told you not to come here. And it turns out they've had a relationship, but he's cursed. There's a backstory behind it, but I think most of us don't really care about it because the queen basically is like, kill him. And he's kind of a badass. It's a really good fight scene here. Geralt gets in there to prevent him from dying. And then you see a big budget spectacular. So ultimately,
Yeah.
I mean, they end up together. But what did you think of this scene?
Action scenes aren't really my thing. I much more enjoyed the scenes with him bantering at the ball, because like Geralt, when he is endearing to me, he's endearing when he's the smartest one in the room and he's calling out everybody else on their bullshit. Like, my favorite scene in the episode was when the two suitors were arguing about the Manticore, and he's just like, fuck this, both of them are lying, because that's not how Manticores work.
Yeah, I like it when he does that too. Although again, if they're trying to make them dark and brooding, sometimes when you're putting a funny scene, I wish they'd be like, okay, let the bard take over or something. But it's early on. We don't know what's going to happen. The next 4 episodes I think it is. So we'll see how they do it because they can get tighter with what they're doing. But sometimes when you filmed all 8 episodes, you don't know how it all is presented, even when you cut it at the end. So we'll see. I didn't think this angle was notable other than the fact that you got to see the daughter display a tremendous amount of power, which we know is going to filter down into Syria. But you could also argue here too that the queen has this issue with men because she's bitching about her husband who's dead, and of course this is also a double wedding. It's not just her daughter; it's herself, because her and her other guy, who we end up seeing as the king and queen in the first episode, you see them talking and how they get together. And so this is my problem with some of the timelines because when you saw those two in the first episode, I thought they had good chemistry, but then they pretty much get whacked or they kill themselves. So it's like, okay, why do I care, emotionally speaking? But when you see a backstory like this, you're like, oh, okay, but that's several episodes ago. So again, why do I care? There's no sense of building. It's just a nice filler, but it doesn't, to me, propel anything forward. It's just burning time on the clock.
Well, it's kind of like how in episode 3 when the sorceresses were having their little graduation ball and the various kings they were gonna work for showed up. One of the one of the queens that showed up had her kids with her, and one of those kids was the monarch in the Geralt storyline. The Falset, I think his name was.
Yeah, and that's where it's not really apparent which timeline's which unless you catch it early and then you verify it kind of with what's going on, I think. Which takes away your ability to watch it, I think.
Yeah, I only caught that because I knew that in the games and the book, when Yen and Geralt meet, she's 99 already, so it makes sense for um Falset to be a kid when she's graduating, basically.
So really, basically, the end of this particular storyline is kind of half-assed, and well, not half-assed, but just it felt like a throwaway where Hedgehog Head Guy is basically saying, "Hey, I want to thank you, Geralt, for coming to my rescue." Blah blah blah. And there's some sort of seems like it's lighthearted moment when Geralt says something like, "Well, then I'll get the law of surprise or whatever." And it turns out that in invoking that, what it means is that somehow he has this connection to what's going to be Syria that I hate to use the word own, but that's the big thing that they're setting up here, and why we're not going to see probably him and Syria, I'm guessing, till one of the last episodes. So we'll see. But it's like, okay, I see how they're forcing it together, and maybe that would give some momentum to the series storyline, which is pretty much nothing happening yet. So this brings us to the Yennefer storyline, which super budget scenes. There's a line she says early on when she's traveling in a stagecoach with some queen who's got a baby, and they're both kind of bitching about the female perspective. The queen with the baby is like, "Oh, I'd hate to be seen as just a vessel, basically, a sperm dump to have babies, and be nothing of merit." And so she's kind of idolizing Yennefer and her ability to be independent. Whereas Yennefer had made a comment about something that's been like 30 years. So supposedly time has passed here. Unless you heard that, you wouldn't know because she still looks young.
Yeah.
But you can see her
Yeah.
going through that. I hit 30 years old as a woman. I'm itching for a baby, but I can't have one, so I'm almost envious of you and your ability to have one. So it's kind of a neat little back and forth, but they're attacked by this goofy roach sort of predatorish kind of thing with a mage, which I don't know if this is supposed to be scary or goofy, but basically slaughters everybody, and Yennefer's trying to protect her and the baby, and she does her portals, but something allows them to be tracked, which I didn't catch what it was. Ultimately, the baby dies,
baby died,
and it's just Yennefer and the
and
baby
it's
on this
just Jennifer
beach.
and the baby on this
And I thought, okay,
beach.
maybe this is going
And
to
I
turn
thought,
into
okay, maybe
something
this
with a
is gonna
story
turn
or
into
be a
something with a
character, or I
story
don't
or
know,
be
because
a
the baby's there
character, or I don't
blue,
know, because the baby's there
and she buries
blue,
it on the beach,
and
and
she
she has a little
buries it
sad,
on the
sad
beach,
time
and
on the
she has
beach
a
with
little
the dead
sad, sad time
baby.
on the beach
And I'm
with the
like,
dead baby.
they're
And I'm
really
like,
not going to do anything with this
they're really
baby
not going
thing
to do
other
anything
than
with this
just
baby
have it
thing
for this,
other than just
little
have
bit
it
of a
for this,
storyline. And it's like,
storyline.
really?
It's
Well,
like, really?
I
Did I miss
think I
something?
thought
Did
it
I
was
miss something?
I think it was a character moment to show that as superficial as she treated it when she needed to have her enchantment back in episode 3, that price was a price that she, now is, I think, kind of regretting paying.
I just felt that the whole
I just
baby,
felt that the
for
whole
a
baby,
slight angle
for
like
a
that,
slight angle like
could
that,
have carried a
could have
lot
carried a
more weight, and they
lot
could have
more
milked it
weight. They
rather
could
than
have
just
milked
have
it
it being a
rather than
convenient
just have
thing.
it
And
being
I'll
a
be
convenient thing.
overdang. We
I'll
deal
be
with adult themes
overbearing. We
like
deal with adult themes like
abortion and femininity
abortion,
and just being a
femininity,
vessel for men,
and
and we
just
want
being
to
a
be
vessel for
independent,
men and
and
want to be
a dead
independent, and
baby. It was
a dead
like,
baby. It
really?
was like,
Part of
really?
me was going,
Part of me
oh,
was
is that
going,
baby
oh,
gonna turn
is
into
that baby gonna
something? Is
turn
that
into
baby
something?
gonna
Is that
be
baby
the
gonna
eyes
be
gonna open up right there
the
when
eyes
she's
gonna
growing
open
it,
up
which
right
would
there
have
when she's
freaked
Well,
me the hell
I
out, which
I
would have been
freaked me
cool,
the hell
but
out, which would have been cool,
we
but
had no idea what was going
we
on
had
other
no
than,
idea what was going
oh,
on other
you're an
than,
assassin.
oh, you're an
You
assassin.
bared a daughter,
You
not a
bared a
male, therefore
daughter,
you're
not
useless
a
because
male,
you didn't
therefore
produce
you're
a hire.
useless
So
because you
that's why
didn't
the
produce a
assassin's
hire. So
there,
that's why
which
the
is
assassin's,
reasonable, but
which is
still
reasonable, but
speculative.
still speculative.
hmm
I didn't dislike
I
it. I
didn't
just
dislike
found it a
it.
bit
I just found
odd,
it a bit
maybe.
odd, maybe.
it was more of a, we don't really have anything to do with Yen this episode, so what should we do with Yen to make sure that she's still, relevant to things? Oh, I know. We'll do a character development storyline. Yay!
After
It,
dead
it was
baby,
kind of
what
a,
can you
After
do?
dead baby, what can you do?
well, they get going by the books and the games. They can get kind of elaborate. So
Okay.
it
Okay.
it is a bit shock value to just use that baby in a random like character development arc, but Yen Yen gets to be quite a badass later on, so I'm okay with them just chalking it up to character development here and there. Especially if it's a choice of let's not have Yen in this episode or let's give her a character development episode. Like I like this character too much and I like the world that she inhabits too much to go an episode without her. Siri, on the other hand, is a different story. I still continue to be like, well, okay, but can we pick up the pace a little bit here? Can you do something interesting so that I can care?
Well, before we get to that, we'll just
Well,
finish
before
up
we
with
get
the
to that,
Yennefer
we'll just finish
storyline
up with
where
the Yennefer storyline
she
where
ended up
she
porting
ended up
into an
porting
area
into an
with like a
area
talking tree.
with like a talking tree.
I'm like,
hmm
okay, I don't know
I'm
if
like,
that's
okay,
Tolkienish
I
or
don't know if
not or
that's
part of it.
English or not
So
or part of it. So
I'll withhold judgment on
I'll
that and
withhold
like the whole
judgment on
baby
that
angle
and
because to
like
your
the whole
point,
baby angle
I'm
because
the
to your
casual
point,
viewer here.
I'm the
I've
casual
not
viewer
read
here.
any of the
I've
books. I
not
don't
read
know
any of the
what's in
books. I
there.
don't know what's
So
in there.
maybe some of it
So
may
maybe
have to
some
do
of
with
it
some of
may
that,
have
or
to
it's an
do with some of
extension of
that,
it. So
or it's an
that's something where I
extension
could
of it.
almost
So
give it a
that's
pass,
something where I
not
could
being
almost give it
too
a
familiar
pass,
with the
not
source
being too
material.
familiar with the
That's
source
my
material.
current take on it.
My current take
But
on it.
yeah, that does bring us to
But yeah,
Suri,
that does bring us
which
to Siri,
is
which
kind of
is
moving slow.
kind of moving slow.
hmm
She's in the woods.
She's in the
She's
woods.
got the group of
She's got
chicks, the
the
dryads,
group of
basically
chicks, the dryads,
giving some
basically
backstory
giving
by
some backstory
exposition.
by
Okay,
exposition.
whatever.
Okay, whatever.
And they're like, well,
And
you're
they're like,
here, and
well,
let's have another
you're here.
convenient
Let's
thing
have
for you
another
to do, which is
convenient thing
drink
for you
these
to do, which
magical
is drink
waters.
these
Because when
magical
you do,
waters. Because
if
when
your
you
heart
do,
is not
if
pure,
your heart is not pure,
you'll know. And if it
you'll
is, it will
know.
help you
And if it
heal,
is, it
but
will
will
help you
help you
heal.
forget.
Will
And a
help you
part of me just,
forget.
I don't know if it was
And a
the
part of me just, I
actress,
don't know
it
if it was
wasn't
the
working for me,
actress, it wasn't
and I
working for
didn't get
me,
it. I didn't feel
and
any
I didn't
sense
get it. I
of
didn't feel any
doom,
sense of
impending
doom,
from the Nilfgaard or anybody else
impending
coming
from
after
the
her.
Nilfgaard or anybody
It
else
was
coming
just
after
sort
her.
of there,
It was
and then
just
of
sort of
course her
there,
elf
and then
buddy
of course her elf buddy,
Dara, I think is his name.
Dara, I think is his name.
He's
Yeah.
more than happy to
He's
drink it,
more
and
than
so she's by
happy to
herself. I'm
drink
like, well,
it,
they
and so
haven't
she's by
bonded enough for me to
herself. I'm
care
like,
about this
well, they haven't
potential
bonded enough for
split,
me to
but
care about this potential split,
it
but
just kind of fell
it
flat to
just
me.
kind of fell flat to me.
What didn't make sense for me is why did she lie to the dryads about her name? Like, I guess that could have been drama if they had had some like negative association with the Sintras, but as far as we know, they are basically neutral good dryads. So, to use a D&D reference. So why would like lying to other nobles and lying to other humans I can get, but as far as she knows, these things are basically forces of nature, so why would she bother lying to them?
Well, I would have liked to have seen her from a couple episodes ago. We mentioned not much is happening, but in terms of a younger female character, it would have been interesting to me to see her being shocked at how everybody's making these comments about how horrible her family was to the average man. And it would have been interesting for me not to see her try to absolve her parents, but kind of get a little bit cynical and grow up rather quickly. And I'd have no problems with her lying out of a sense of that cynicism or self-survival, because these women, if you heard it, basically they almost talked about it in terms of weaponizing her. Hey, she da 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 da, and they had a conversation about it. I'm like, well, you don't sound like neutral good dryads, for tree hugging types that love the flowers and everything else. You seem like you had a military bent to you almost, that you had some purpose you just wanted to use her for, and I don't know if it was really spelled out, or again if it will be something. So I don't know if that was hinted well, not delivered well, not written or acted well, but that was my take. It's like, yeah, let's just get out
Yeah,
of here as soon as we can.
yeah, I'm getting sick of her trying to still defend her family. I wish she would I wish she would be like, okay, this happened. Clearly I didn't understand everything. Clearly I need to adjust my sense of self-worth. But no, every time her family comes up, it's always, but my family didn't do that. No, Siri, they did. They did, Siri. Can we move on? This is really, really getting old now.
Yeah, so I think in general, episodes 3 and 4 are still really solid. There's a lot of really good individual scenes, especially the Yennefer one in episode 3, the character building there. Um, the Bard has chemistry with Geralt. I mean, they're really good. I'm like you, the action scenes, while done well, it's about the build up to me, not the payoff. And
Hmm.
the Law of Surprise, I don't know if that's going to turn into anything more than what we already know. But we're halfway through. Understandably, I think it's a very good show. It's entertaining enough where I want to keep watching. And I've always said that's more about the characters than the story, because the story can change, but we would like to
Hmm.
see how characters grow and change everything. So far, I've been feeling pretty good about it, but I just don't know how serious they're trying to take everything, or if they're trying to. I just feel like they're changing the tone on a lot of the different characters, and so I feel myself tonally changing sometimes with these storylines, and I think that inhibits my ability to sit there and say, "Oh, this is awesome, this is fantastic, it's a must-watch." It's very good by Netflix standards. I'm enjoying it. I think we're nitpicking on a few things because we care about it. Otherwise, we'd make fun of it and joke about it. But
Hmm.
overall, I would say so far so good, and I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the season. What about you for your final thoughts?
I broadly speaking agree with you. I think there were a lot of good scenes that weren't always put together quite well. And I do think the jumping around does hurt things a lot more than it helps them at this point. Um, as far as characters, and I do find myself liking this world a lot more as we go into kind of the minutia of it. I like when they go heavier into the lore, and I do like Geralt and the Bard as like a buddy cop duo almost. Um, and I like that he's the kind of comedy relief where he's not an idiot. He can actually one up Geralt in certain ways when they get bantering back and forth. He's not the stupid character who we like watched being stupid kind of character. He's smarmy and he's kind of a rogue, but we love him for it. So I'm interested to see where it goes. I think the tone is I think the tone is more about trying to balance things and make them sort of three-dimensional characters because nobody is entirely grim or entirely, fruity. That everyone has their moments of darkness and has their moments of levity, and I do like that because too often, especially in dark fantasy shows, you have this everything is awful and everyone is a stoic, grim badass at all times, and no one ever has any levity or any. I always hated certain episodes of Game of Thrones that did that. Like everyone is some kind of stoic badass, and everybody is grim and gritty and everything is awful. So I like the little comedic moments as long as they don't overplay them because life isn't all dark or all light. I kind of like that it's somewhere in between. I just wish they would balance it a little more.
Well, apparently,
Well,
the
apparently,
echoing I'm hearing
the
from
echoing
your
I'm
end, they're
hearing
hearing as
from
well,
your
but
end, they're
not
hearing
you.
as well, but
So
not you.
go ahead with your
So
final thoughts and
go ahead with your final
pimp your
thoughts and
site and let's
pimp your
and send us
site and
home.
let's send us home.
Alrighty. Those were basically all my final thoughts. So I will go and commence the shilling. Hi, folks. My name is Dalton Mortimer. I am the Authenticator. My channel is called the Authenticator. I do lots of kind of random content over there. It's a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of magic, a little bit of pop culture, a little bit of the mix thereof. And I also frequently do cameos and things of that nature on other people's channels. If you are interested in finding me on Twitter, my Twitter tag is the Authenticator, but spelled without the U because Twitter is dumb and doesn't allow for enough characters in one's tag. And you can find me just about everywhere else, including Minds, Discord, BitChute, Telegram, and Discord at the Authenticator. Cheers, guys.
Good night.
Good night.